see, truck's back together. Got the steering fixed. But now we're going to add a steering dampener because I don't want the wheels flapping around, and hopefully that'll keep any further damage to the new studs from happening. It couldn't hurt, and this thing tends to flop around when it gets in bumps anyway, so I figured, might as well put one on there. There's nothing that dampens the steering. I've never had a rig with crossover steering before that was not factory, and maybe that's just how it is. I don't know, but I'm not a huge fan of it. So to keep the wheels from doing this when we're on the trail, we're going to throw a Skyjacker steering dampener on there. And according to the constructions, yes, I'm reading the constructions, which by the way has some really great Bible passages and actually tells you how to get saved on the back. So props to Skyjacker. Nothing wrong with getting a little Christian wisdom out there and telling people how to be saved when they're working on their four-wheel drive. I like that. Anyway, it says all you need. Page 1 here. 1/2 inch, 9/16, 11/16 sockets and wrenches. We got that. Diagonal cutting pliers. We got that. It says measuring tape. I'll get that. And adjustable pliers. We've got all that. And this looks pretty straightforward. Basically, you're going to take the center bracket. It's going to mount on the axle. The shocks are going to mount off of this side of it. And it's going to tie on to that cross tie rod behind my head here. This guy. And that'll keep the wheels from flapping around via these shocks dampening that movement. So let's dig in, see how it goes. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Never done this particular one. I put one on an old Chevy before. It was just a single shock. I've done one on Pathfinder, Toyota pickup, probably other things over the years that weren't mine, but those are the ones that come to mind. So let's see what we got. And looks pretty straightforward. First off, we will unbox the rest of it. I already pre-gamed one of the shocks. It says to go ahead and put the boots on first. I'll cut the tail of that off here in a second. And that's pretty straightforward. Basically just unwrap the shock and slide the boot over it. You gotta pull it out a little ways. And these aren't like your normal suspension shocks because they are not springy. They don't want to extend themselves, so you gotta extend that a little bit. And throw your boot, obviously big side down. This one's a little bit inside out, but pretty straightforward. I'm just gonna rest it on the creeper here. Slide that bad boy on there. All the way down to the shock body. Get it down onto it. And then they even give you color-coded zip ties. Which if any of you have ever used any Skyjacker products before, most four-wheel drive products that come with shocks with boots, they give you a zip tie that's color coordinated because you gotta have matching colors. It's important. Even though my truck is blue, every other shock and suspension piece on this thing is red, so it works for me anyway. And then just slide the upper part of the boot over that eyelet, and there you go. Pretty simple stuff. Now let's open up the bag of parts here. Probably didn't need to be laying down just yet. And let's see what's in here. All the U-bolts and shock bushings and everything else. It's gonna make a huge mess to dump those all over the floor because that's how we roll around here. And there's U-bolts, the other bracket try. It's like shock mounts. Pretty straightforward stuff. Everything's nylock. Comes with all the washers. It's good deal. And we got to get these bushings in these shocks, which sometimes, depending on the shock, can be a huge normic pain in the you-know-what. But we'll see what we got. It also says to use some waterproof grease or water-resistant grease, so I'm going to go back to the waterproof red sticky stuff I was using earlier. And it just says, like you guys, if you've ever done shocks before, you just put a light coating on the bushings. It's mainly going to keep them from squeaking and allow you to slide them into the shock a lot easier. So I would recommend getting you a can of good waterproof grease. I'm about out. I'm gonna have to go get some more, but I usually keep a can of it around. It's just kind of handy for various projects, and hopefully I don't need the vise and I can just slide these in. We'll see how it goes here. Sometimes these can be pretty stiff and hard to get into the shock. And we'll see here. Let's see. Got to cooperate. Oh yeah, no problem. That was easy. And I will clean all my filthy fingerprints off of these because it's got to look good, you know. It's got to be fancy. I haven't even put the stickers on yet either because I always put those on last because you never know which way it's going to be facing exactly. And you should, I suppose, but might as well just wait till you're on the last step and then you can put your fancy stickers on if you want to. Letting everybody know you bought Skyjacker stuff, which I've always liked Skyjacker stuff. I had really good luck with it over the years on many different vehicles, and I've had good luck with it on this truck as well. I'll be honest, the springs I have are getting a little bit old, but they've been on here for a long time and many bumps. And I might end up buying a new set of Skyjacker springs in the near future. Just leaf springs, just to, you know, maybe make it ride a little better, stop some of the squeaking. Spring packs are still in good shape. This actually has lift blocks on the back and now Skyjacker springs in the rear, so I'll definitely be buying a set of rear Skyjacker shocks in the near future because I'm not a fan of lift blocks. This does have tighter bars on it so that it doesn't have much axle wrap, but it still has a little, and that's awful hard on U-joints, and I don't really like the way it feels when it's going down the trail, so I think taller leaves will be the way to go. I'd like to go a little bigger. My wife won't really like that, but she will just have to build her a ladder so she can get up in there. Right now it gives me an excuse to, you know, give her the old heave-hove, push her in the truck, because who doesn't like to give their wife a hand and get a free feel in the process, right? There we go. And one more. We're pretty much done with our prep work for this project according to the instructions that Skyjacker provided. Pretty good stuff. Okay, now that we've got stringy grease all over everything again. Perfect. I just cleaned all this up, so, you know, about time to get it all filthy again. Come on now. There we go. Okay. Bushings installed. I'll get the grease off my gloves. Give those a quick squirt with some cleaning juice, and it'll be time to start putting bracketry on the machine. Okay, get that laid out. Move the cleaning juice. And hit myself in the face with that rag. And we're going to set this bad boy on top of here. Thusly, hopefully this is going to work. Setup I have is kind of a universal setup, not necessarily for this particular truck or axle. And the U-bolts fit around the axle tube, so that's a good sign. Put a washer on each side and start the nuts. It says do not tighten, which makes sense because you don't want to tighten everything up till you got everything in place. So you can kind of maneuver it around as needed. That's on here. Just hand tighten for now. We'll go back through and torque everything down here shortly. Same on the other side. Slide the bolt up, around, washer, washer. Okay, that's started. Next, we need to put on some shock mounts, which I sit here to do rather than laying down. The nice thing about having a humongous truck, you don't have to necessarily lay under it each time when you want to work on it. Each shock mount comes in its own bag. They look all the same. They all have the same part numbers, so it really doesn't matter which shock mount you use. And these other pieces of hardware are for the rest of this. Let's bust one of these open. I would say on a technical skill installing this particular thing, at least so far and what I can see from the instructions, pretty simple, not a whole lot to it. Looks like smaller nut, and according to the pictures they provide, you just simply slide that up through this guy and put on your fasteners. And one lock washer, one fine thread nut, which I get my fingers to cooperate with my brain, might actually thread on there. Come on, fingers, brain. Let's work as a team. I grabbed the wrong size. Grab the wrong size nut. That would be the other problem. Okay, let's try that again. If you get the right size nut, it turns out it threads right on there, no problem. I love this ratchet because it actually gets things to about 40 or 50 foot-pounds pretty reliably. So I don't necessarily need to torque everything. Doesn't say what to torque those to anyway, but I'm sure that ratchet gave them plenty. Alright, so now I might deviate from the constructions just a hair. I'm going to do the same setup basically on these two brackets that hold the other end of the shocks. I'll have to excuse my neighbors being noisy across the street. It is Saturday and people are home, so they make noise. What do you do? Even up here in the mountains. Alright, same game as before. The right size items here. And this looks to be the same on either side, so I'll go ahead and basically do the same thing. I'm not going to tighten those all the way up yet. I'll just start them. That way we're ready to go when we need them. Pretty simple installation, and hopefully it makes a world of difference. I know it has on the other vehicles I've installed it on. So there you go. And these are going to go basically out on the tie rods, something like that. And we're going to have to probably move that up just a hair so that there's no issue with it rubbing because of this custom whatever that is on this bar. I didn't build it, I don't know, but it's part of it. So I'm going to need a tape measure so we can make sure we get everything centered correctly. Okay. Now I'm going to just go ahead and kind of deviate from the constructions. These should go something like this. Pretty simple. And that's going to be the rest of the hardware that came with that first bag that was loose. So let's go ahead and slide in under here. Get those installed. Grab all the correct nuts and washers. Okay, there's 4 of those. That should be enough to do one side of this. And it's very much a similar installation process. I'll kind of turn it so you can see. Pretty straightforward. And if you ever wondered, you look close at a washer, see how the top of that washer is more rounded than the bottom. If everyone wondered which way to put a washer, the rounded side goes up. If you didn't know, now you know. Just gonna get those hand tight for now. Same thing with the other U-bolt. Yep. Gotta drop everything at least once, it seems like. Okay, same story. Beveled side up. Beveled side up. 2 nylocks. And you can kind of start to see how this is going to work, huh? Shocks are going to go between, and this is rigid mounted to the axle. This is mounted to the tie rod, and it keeps things from moving too fast. So. And there we go. So now we may have some clearance issues with the springs. I don't know. We'll see how this is going to work out when it's all said and done. And worst case, I'll have to flip this guy over so it sits below and the shocks mount on it that way. And that may be what we have to end up doing, just because of where this tie rod sits and how high the knuckles are on this particular vehicle. In fact, I think I'm just going to go ahead and make that call now. And I remember another Ram Charger I had, someone had actually not realized there was a hard line for the brakes on the back of the axle and pinched it when they installed the steering dampener. It was not me that time. I learned a hard lesson though. If you ignore that and go long enough, eventually that brake line's going to start leaking, and it'll happen on like the coldest day of the year, which it did. And then you don't have any brakes during a snowstorm. So that was a fun day. Anywho's, word wise, make sure there's nothing on the backside you're going to pinch if you put one of these on, because that can really mess you up. Straightforward. You want to tighten these down evenly. I'm not going to go full tight on them yet. Just get them close. Just so that quits flopping around. Grab some more grease here, and we'll grease up these studs so that our bushings will slide onto them without a fuss and not squeak. Because it's really fun to have a truck that squeaks when you move things like steering and shocks. And just a little coating of grease on there. These should just slide down on top of those with a little bit of persuasion, like that. And the other side, same deal. Slide up into there. Got all the rest of the hardware. That's why they give you these big flat washers. They go on top of there. Another lock washer. And then the other nut. Okay, now for the most scientific part. Extend each Skyjacker tie rod bracket shaft out exactly halfway, which is 4 3/4 inches. So basically what they're telling you to do is take these out from the top of the body of the shock, 4 3/4 inches. You get the measuring device here and measure to the end of the cylinder body to shaft stem washer. Well, here's the shaft stem washer, and the end of the cylinder body is right there, so we're actually too far out back here. Where's that? There's the end of the body. Did it say 4 3/4? I mean, okay, 4 3/4 inches. We're almost there. You can't. Kind of hard to see, but with the boot on there, it's tough. The end of the shock body's right there. We're about 4.5. That should be approximately 4 3/4 right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down so that it doesn't move. And we'll measure it again just to make sure. Okay, that should have everything relatively close to where it needs to go. I think I'm going to rotate this up just a little bit more, which means I'm going to have to loosen that. But we'll get up closer to the actual level of the tie rod here, and we'll check and make sure everything works without binding up, make sure everything lines up correctly and the shocks extend properly, and that should be about it. So let's get her done. Alright, so center U-bracket bolts, 30 foot-pounds. You can see it, 29, 30 foot-pounds. Set, saved, 9/16. So we're in righty-tighty mode. And then we'll torque these down. There's 30. Alright, all those are torqued to 30. And then it's set on the smaller U-bolts. What was that? 24 inch-pounds? No, 240 inch-pounds. So that used to be a huge problem, but we'll go push a button on this. Makes it way easier. And you set. Go down to 240. Oh, there's 230. 240 inch-pounds. Set. Get the half-inch socket. I don't know why they gave it to you in inch-pounds, but it is what it is. So these might already be too tight. Let's see. Nope. On the back here. Be a little tricky to get those other ones. I think you're gonna have to just kind of guess on those because I can't get a socket on. I don't think. Try. Well, how far? Good Lord. There's 24, 240. Okay. Nope, there it is. There's 220, 240. Okay, I can get a ratchet on those, but those got to get tightened up a long ways first. And I might as well use the ratchet because I got it right here. Okay, ain't getting any more on it with this ratchet. The head's too big. Just double check everything by hand. A little more. This one, good tight. All right, and that's pretty much it. Oh, almost forgot the most important part. The stickers. Let me just another real quick clean. Wipe down the shock bodies. Make them all pretty. And the stickers. So, pull off one side. That's how I do these usually. Just kind of eyeball the center. Probably get them crooked. That's how I usually do it. One side on. Run that down. And there it is. Now it's officially Skyjacker. Pretty simple. I got grease going everywhere. Which way? Ooh, what? Dang it. It's that waterproof sticky grease. Same on this side. Pull off half the sticker. Line it up with the other one as good as we can. And bam. Probably a little crooked, but whatever. It is what it is. And there you go. That is one installed steering dampener. I'm gonna get in the truck, fire it up, cycle the steering. Let me know if it hits anything, would you? Looks like we're good, so there you go. That is how you install a dual steering stabilizer, at least on a solid axle. So, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.